Welcome back to the greenhouse. It's freezing outside. It is probably like 8 or 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Not sure what that is in Celsius. I'll throw that up on the screen there. Anyway, it is pretty darn windy. It's wickedly windy outside. And every time I'm in here working, I've got water or condensation, moisture raining down on top of me. So it's about 80, 82 degrees in the greenhouse. Don't let the sun fool you. It is not very strong. So we're operating off of our compost heater and our wood stove back here. And today we actually made ourselves a DIY wet vac. I might throw a clip of this operating up in the corner or something, but we're gonna go through and we're gonna discuss this DIY wet vac and dealing with excess moisture in the DIY greenhouse throughout winter here. So if that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. And thank you for everyone who has subscribed to the channel and gives a little bit of input. We get emails, comments, suggestions, and ideas all day long. So it's pretty cool to be able to turn some of those things into real creations. So after this, what would you like to see me build next? Drop it in the comments below. As long as it's not a super costly project, as everything here I already had on hand. So basically it was free. I did purchase some of these items. Yes, it's not absolutely free, but in a sense of just throwing it together while I was drinking coffee this morning, it was a 20-minute build with things I had. So if that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing. Let's jump right into this. So let's first of all start with what led me to making this video this morning. Now I was sitting here drinking coffee, just observing all of the rain. I'm gonna show everything in the greenhouse that I'm talking about as I look at it, and you guys can't see it, but we've got condensation moisture dripping all over. The wind is hitting the greenhouse, causing minute vibrations, like very small vibrations will drop a raindrop as it accumulates. As we're using all of these heat sources 24/7, our compost heater, geothermal, and our wood stove, and the sun when it's out in winter, which isn't very often, so it's nice to have a nice sunny day for good lighting today. As all those heat sources warm the air up, it picks up the moisture, humidity, and it raises those humidity levels. We have large tanks of water all over that are getting heated and getting circulated, and on a microscopic level, they will have points that condense up, and little warm air drafts will basically pull moisture into the air from an open tank of water. So with hundreds, almost 1,000+ gallons of sitting water just sitting open in ponds and tanks, we have a lot of evaporation. So with all that condensation, I had this little squeegee and I had a steel bowl that I was just collecting water in and watering it right into the beds and watering it right into the pond and on our rooted cuttings and stuff like that. Another use for rainwater or evaporated, condensed, and recycled water is our bricks, our DIY bricks. So we can make those bricks and make them more solid without pump water, basically well water or anything like that. If it dries and leaves like a white crust or something, it could be bad water to make bricks with. Alkalinity doesn't allow it to seal up and make those DIY mud bricks and then fire harden them to real orange terracotta looking bricks that are waterproof. So we've had our success and we've had failure. Another reason I wanted to build this contraption here is to harvest the water, harvest all that water and not just recycle it into the beds. So if all the beds have good moisture content, I don't want to add too much moisture and create negative problems, especially in winter when we have a lack of ventilation and a high excess of humidity when we're not able to vent the doors. So I do open these doors, and in a lot of videos we'll see our breath and we'll have the doors just cracked because we like to vent all of that moisture out, and then we'll close the doors up and heat the greenhouse back up just like normal. And then we've lost a lot of that excess moisture, but we still have overnight we have the condensation buildup. So that's what led me to this. Long story short, hopefully you're still here. So trying to keep my electrical and camera equipment and myself dry, I came up with the DIY wet vac from recycled parts, 12-volt rechargeable wet vac here. So let's go ahead and check this bad boy out. So we've got 130 cubic foot per minute inline fan, and that runs 30 watts of power. Now I've got a small 12 volt, 8 amp hours. So we're probably going to be able to run this for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. 2 hours would be maximum efficiency and maximum charge. So connecting our power source, you can see the power lines right here running in to our little DIY controller. So power lines run in and they run back to the fan. So this is going to act as our on-off switch, as a fail-safe, because there's a 5 amp fuse. So this is 5 amp fused and this is 5 amp fused. So the power will blow this before the power will blow this. Just a little fail-safe. This box costs like $1. This switch costs maybe like $2 or $2.50 or something. So very interesting. Now let's check out the whole construction of this thing. Oh, so I had a big old stick fall, or a branch fall, in my front yard this morning, and it was all dry wood. It's not spongy, so we don't want to throw spongy old rotten wood in, but anything that falls off the tree that's hard, solid, you're good to go as long as it's pretty well dry. It is warm in here, so I'm going to shed the hat. Excuse the hat hair. So just taking a quick look at the system. Let's disconnect power, disconnect negative. Let's take our battery and set it down here. This used to be a paint bucket, and this was the little pour spout there. So I had just cut the pour spout and made it a little wider so I could fit all of this tubing. So this tubing was just recycled pond or sump pump tubing, and this fits perfectly right into the bottom piece. You can see there's a little grit in there because I was using it to vacuum up the floor of the greenhouse as a test, and it had some suction power to it. So simple construction. Drilled some holes, used some mounting bolts there, and used the squeegee, and it's got a really good seal there. Go ahead and pop this off, which is not easy. So note to self, put a drain on this thing. So I will state real quick that I could have used these 2 batteries connected together in order to get like 3.5 to 4 hours of power, but it didn't really fit well, and this thing fit perfect. So let's get right into the build here. So on the bottom side, you can see, let's get closer. So you can see we took some electrical tape, made a gasket, put a hose clamp right on, and then this piece fit in perfect. And we had just used some metal tape to tape the hose down. So water falls in the bucket and then the air blows back out. Hopefully we don't blow our fan out, but this is a marine grade fan here, so we should be in good shape to operate this like this. I'm gonna clamp it back down. I'm not gonna make you guys wait and put a drain on this thing right now, but all I need is like a little spigot drain down on the bottom, something that is airtight, so I can still get a good vacuum seal on this thing. So we'll go ahead, throw our battery back on in here, right under the handle, kind of secures it down a bit. And then we've got negative, positive, we've got connection, and then I can use the handle and hold the whole thing like one little unit here. Let's crank this bad boy up. Making some funky sounds. Wow, so that thing's about as loud as a regular shop vac, and it was actually funneling like 99% of the water. I had very little water coming down or falling off. I was getting everything I was squeegeeing right into the funnel, and it was getting sucked right in. It was pretty efficient, and when I had a loop in the system, it was kind of gurgling a bit. I don't know if you could hear that, but it worked, and it worked pretty darn well. I'm gonna crack this thing open and see how much water we actually harvested in the last 5 minutes it took me to run around the greenhouse. And for the moment of truth, oh, we got some debris in there from actually using it like a vacuum on the floor, but we can run that through a strainer as it goes into the bricks. And even if it goes into the bricks, it would be incinerated, or all the carbonaceous matter gets basically deleted in the brick firing process. So that's enough to make a 1.5 bricks. And there's still lots of moisture in the greenhouse, but you can see down here, like above the stove here, this is dry. Maybe a couple cups of water that would have just been lost, vented to atmosphere, recycled to the floor, which we don't need any water right now. Everything's doing pretty well. So being able to recycle and retain that water is a huge bonus. And just with DIY recycled parts here on a homemade wet shop vac. So I'm gonna put this dude back together and I wanna see if we can't get it to pump a little water. I know it's a huge diameter, so if I had a small hose, I guarantee it would pump like heavy amount of water, but I wanna see how strong this thing really is. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna attach the battery, negative first, positive next, connected properly, detachable fitment, detachable squeegee head. So let's see what happens. Huh. All right. We got more water than we got from the ceiling. And so I've only had the fire going. Whoops. So I only had the fire going for maybe 40 minutes now. When I came out here, I started the fire, set up, and started filming the video. So we're sitting still 66, 65 on the outside, 67, and then closer towards the oven there, we're sitting like 200 all around. And then in the center of the sand, it's only 71 degree sand. So we've got a like 50 to 53 degree tank of water over here. After this thing heats up, we can crank a steady flow of over 100 degrees. So pumping that through and putting some thermal mass in here is going to help us on these very, very cold days. And where I was going with that is I want to take some temperatures of it real quick, and I'm going to get a lot more in-depth on a whole video of that just by itself after operating it for hours or a whole day or something like that to see what kind of energy we can put in there. But I want to take some temperatures today. I just have that sand that's holding a lot of negative energy as well as positive energy. So that sand works awesome though, and once we get it hot, it stays hot for quite some time, and it allows us to pull from the thermal mass back and forth and exchange all the heat from the sand into our barrel. Here comes the sun giving us a little energy boost, peeking in and out of the clouds there. So we're taking 50 degree water and turning it into 70, about 70 degree water. Right off the pop. It's still going up. Maybe we'll sit here for a minute and check out the temps. So we ended up maxing out on our water there at about 73 degrees right now, as that had water sitting in the copper and all of the sand in the center is not hot. It's still just like 70 degrees. So the outside, and the closer to the exhaust it is going to be the hottest, and then I can still touch the outside. It's cool to touch, like 65 degrees. I hope everybody enjoyed our little DIY wet vac or sump pump, whatever you want to use it for. It's pretty cool to be able to create something like this. Now with a centrifugal fan that would blow a little bit differently, kind of like this centrifugal fan that we've got tied up on this piece of metal. So it sucks in on the other side and then spits it out on this side. A centrifugal fan would be more ideal for something like this, as it creates better vacuum seal with more blades and stuff. But this thing's so strong that it created a wicked wind force, and it was enough to suck pond water up. So it lifted it. It didn't have enough head lift like a real water pump would. So it's kind of cool to see all of this play out and just test it and build it as I see fit. So we got a bunch of water off of our greenhouse walls, and they're actually drying up now because of all the heat we're putting in this greenhouse. So if anybody has any questions, definitely drop those to us in the comments. If you have any ideas for something you want to see built, drop those to us also. Stay tuned for a lot more experimenting videos that we're going to be putting out here soon. So thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next video.